is Kansas's chief elections official. He is known for his advocacy, as we know, for restrictive voting laws. He led President Donald Trump's commission that investigated Trump's false claim that millions of votes were cast illegally in the 2016 election, and has backed up Trump's claim despite never producing evidence of widespread fraud. Any candidate in the race can request a recount in individual counties, but most post a bond to cover the cost of the recount. Those recount requests must be filed with the Kansas Secretary of State's office by August 17th, so Collier may have to go file a recount with his against his opponent, which should be interesting. Like, again, I'm not trying to allege any corruption in here, but still, very odd, very, 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 very strange situation. Like, what is this? Like, how is this, like, this is another one, when people talk about the swamp, like, this is what they are talking about here, because this is such a weird situation. Like, why in the world is this happening? And why is this guy overseeing his own election? Chris Kobach. Like, why don't you, like, why can he just handle, like, just take a leave of absence for election night? Like, I don't get it. Yeah, Chris Kobach, all you need to know about him is Chris Kobach of Kansas. K. That's pretty much the same thing. And then you get an idea of his push to disenfranchise as many minorities as possible from voting in elections, and possibly getting the government they want instead of a gerrymandered minority that we currently have in Congress today. All right, now we will take this moment to go back to Newsflash. You heard the music, ladies and gentlemen. We are back today for election coverage. We had Tuesday election coverage. We promised you we'd give you the full recap on the Thursday show. So here it is, 30 minutes in. Yeah, that's it. We have a packed show today. We're going to have to speed through some stories because election coverage is now. We got to wrap up from all 4 states in the Ohio 12 runoff that had primaries this past night. So a lot of stuff going on today in our election segment. And of course you gotta go with the music, right? Because that's everything really. Anyway, so yeah, we had, once again, notorious Ferguson prosecutor outed a night of victories and disappointments for insurgent progressive candidates. Alright, so as we know, progressive Democrats heading into Tuesday's primary, we're hoping for a repeat. That's where CNN's where we got the music from, obviously. For a repeat of Bernie Sanders' 2016 shock victory in Michigan. Only this time, the hopes were for Abdul El-Sayed. It didn't happen, as he was beaten by Gretchen Whitmer, a former Democratic leader in the Michigan State Senate, Democratic female Ted Cruz, in my opinion. But progressive activists will come away from Tuesday with a slew of wins, including one deeply satisfying victory. Criminal justice reformer Wesley Bell ousted St. Louis prosecutor Bob McCullough, notorious for his callous indifference to the prosecution of Darren Wilson, the Ferguson, Missouri police officer who shot and killed Michael Brown. In the first wave of major primaries since an upset by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez energized the grassroots wing of the party, Democrats turned out on Tuesday night in surging numbers. In Michigan, well over 1,000 or more people voted in the Democratic gubernatorial primary. 100,000 more voted in the Democratic primary than in the Republican contest. In Missouri, Dem turnout was up 85% since 2010. The enthusiasm among Democrats means that Republicans needed everything they had in Ohio in a special election district that Donald Trump carried by more than 10 points. Republicans struggled to pull ahead by even 1 percentage point despite a rally by Trump, a visit by Mike Pence, $3.5 million from Paul Ryan's super PAC, and 2 Republican National Committee field offices. With the provisional ballots still to be counted, the race is still too close to call. For all of the money spent, the winner, whether it's Troy Balderson or Democrat Danny O'Connor, will still have just 19 legislative days between now and the November election. So utterly pointless. All right, so yeah, that is what we got. So we're going to go through here, and yeah, we're gonna go back up to the top. Okay, so anyway, yeah, that kind of relatively pointless thing took place. But Here's a good thing that's not relatively pointless that took place. Rashida Tlaib, a progressive community organizer and former state legislator endorsed by Ocasio-Cortez, led the race to replace John Conyers in Congress. She will be the first Muslim woman and Palestinian American elected to Congress. With 94% of the votes counted, she led comfortably. Yes, Rashida Tlaib. Yeah, so John Conyers doing pretty good. In Kansas, the Democratic Socialist duo campaigned for Brent Weldon, that's Bernie and Ocasio, campaigned for Kansas, Brent Weldon in Kansas City and James Thompson in Wichita. A poll released on the eve of the election showed Welder holding a double-digit lead, with Sharice Davids in second and Tom Nyman in third. The other candidates far behind. With 30 votes in, the poll was bearing out, with Welder at 39% and Davids at 33%. A computer glitch sent the rest of the vote counting back into the early hours of Wednesday, and Davids, down by fewer than 2,000 votes, was well within striking distance of Welder. By the morning, the number had reversed, with Davids on top 37% to Welder's 34%. Very annoying. Anyway, yeah, that was the Johnson County result. Big computer glitch, apparently, as the thing was supposed to be... So the thing was supposed to be really pretty easy for Welder to come away with. And he would have done well against his opponent, Kevin Yoder, but it looks like, I mean, barring any unforeseen progressive challenges, Sharice Davids will move on there. James Thompson beat his more conservative opponent, Laura Lombard, in Kansas by roughly 2-1. So James Thompson crushed. He's most likely going to Congress if he can hold office of a Republican opponent. St. Louis, in St. Louis County, Bell's race for Wesley Bell, the man we mentioned before, who is taking on the Michael Brown asshole. His race for prosecutor was part of a nationwide movement to bring criminal justice reform by winning district attorneys' races. Shout out Larry Krasner in Philly. With support of the Working Families Party and Real Justice PAC, which is affiliated with the Intercept columnist Sean King and a slew of local and national groups, Bell knocked off McCullough, who had been in office for more than 20 years. Elsewhere in St. Louis, Ocasio-Cortez campaigned pretty hard for Cori Bush, a pastor, a single mom, and nurse who challenged Lacey Clay Jr. The first congressional district was previously represented by Clay's father, and altogether, the family has represented the district for more than 50 years. The race was a test of whether Clay had let his turnout operation atrophy over the years, or whether he was able to still turn out votes in the primary. The race was closely watched by Skid's House Dems, who worry about their own coming primary challenges. Incumbents were pleased to see Bush dispatched Clay by 57 to 36%. Bush was dispatched by Clay, 57 to 36%. Very sad situation with Cori Bush, who was one of the stronger progressive Democrats that were out there. The progressive organizing still paid dividends. It's likely that the organizing done by Bush and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did contribute heavily to Wesley Bell's win, and also helped defeat an anti-union measure. The GOP gambled that moving a ballot referendum on right-to-work laws from November to August would lower turnout and give them victory. The referendum would prohibit agreements that require employees in a unionized workplace to contribute to the cost of union operations. It was an attempt to suck already reeling unions, who took a huge loss in Janus versus AFSCME, a Supreme Court decision that serves as kind of a right to work for public sector unions. Moving up the vote was one of the final acts of disgraced former Governor Eric Greitens, but Prop A proved wildly unsuccessful, and it was called around 10 p.m. Central Time, losing by 65% to 35%, with two-thirds of the precincts counted. Unions worked to defeat the measure, reversing a trend that saw 5 other states adopt right-to-work laws this decade, which was pretty good. Unions and labor have taken huge losses recently. It was very encouraging to see some progressive labor win coming their way. And I mean, this is the thing. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, unions, they're so bad, whatever." But the thing is, they are so important. We see in times where income inequality is booming, and there is so much advantages to the rich, and so many problems to the poor, so many so many disadvantages the poor have to face, that these workers, whether they have increasing wages, whether they get more rights, better conditions, the most important thing is that they are treated equally, and they're treated with respect, they're treated with dignity, not like in Amazon where people were fired during Christmas, literally during Christmas, because a computer said that it would be a good idea for them to fire one particular worker. That actually happened. It's really just a horrible way to celebrate Prime Day, which happened recently. So anyway, the gains made Tuesday night follow what was a monumental step forward in last round of major primaries in June. Ocasio's upset win over Joe Crowley made global headlines, but it overshadowed a string of wins that marked the height of the 2018 insurgency. Well, the June round of primaries was not, honestly, it was not. It was kind of was a little bit better than Tuesday nights. We, as progressives, I count myself as a progressive. I do want to be fair to you guys. I am a progressive. It marked the height of the 2018 insurgency from Kentucky to Colorado. Grassroots candidates defeated entrenched politicians. A lot of entrenched politicians going down, which is what we like to see. Grassroots candidates rising up and challenging things a little bit. But again, the big thing about this is that we continue to get wins wherever we can get them. This is really the progressives' first year, the 2018 midterms after the 2016 election. This was the real first year that we really had any kind of foot to put forward. We're not going to win all of them by any stretch of the imagination. We're not going to maybe not win over 50%, but we can take wins where we can get them. And the important thing is the progressive movement keeps continuing to get bigger and not regressing. So, we want to be the aggressive progressives, not the regressive progressives, both in our policy positions and our electoral politics results. So, it's simple as that. In Colorado, progressives did well in Democratic primaries. Social worker Emily Sirota defeated former Planned Parenthood political director Ashley Wheeland by 6 points. She ran a tuition-free college and single-payer health care and received endorsement from Bernie Sanders. In Senate District 32, Robert Rodriguez, whose day job is working as a community-based corrections program, defeated the tech entrepreneur Zach Newman in his Democratic primary. Rodriguez stressed also criminal justice reform, universal health care, and the adoption of full-day universal pre-K and kindergarten. And since the primary victories were the easy part, the two just were populists and progressives like James Thompson, Kansas, Kara Eastman in Nebraska, and Katie Porter in California, and other candidates in tough races will come when their message is really up for scrutiny in an up-for-grabs seat in a general election. Now we turn to Kansas. In Tuesday's primary in Kansas's 3rd district, with all the precincts reporting, and this is really this is the one everyone was focused on. This one and the this is the Brent Welder one and the James Thompson one. The James Thompson one he won easily, but in Tuesday's primary in the 3rd district, however, with all precincts reporting, Davids had beaten Welder by some 2,000 votes. Davids, the not as progressive, versus Welder, the super progressive. Welder has amassed the most cash on hand heading in the final weeks of the race, whereas Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez came to Kansas City to stump with him. The Welder campaign raised $110,000 in 7 days after that visit and inspired 254 new volunteers. Again, no corporate PAC money, small dollar donations only. Sharice Davids raised a single mom as a compelling life story, lesbian, and a Native American MMA fighter. She went to community college to the Ivy League. She picked up a late endorsement from the Kansas City Star and New Mexico congressional candidate Deb Haaland, who she would join as the first Native American woman in Congress. Neerman, however, ran the argument that the Democrats should nominate a centrist who would be able to compete in the general election. Naturally, Neerman came third. Neerman's a teacher at a private school from which many parents contributed to his campaign. Oh, you bet they did. Despite his significant fundraising powers, he was lagging in third without any significant volunteer support enjoyed by both Welder and Davids. Because, like, when you don't really have any positions, no one's in